All right, we're working on a 2010 Mazda 3 today. Definitely needs new rotors and maybe new brake pads. So let's get started. Take a flathead screwdriver, get the rattle clip out. Usually a little twist will help it fall out. You can put some penetrating oil in these holes before you start moving it. Sometimes they are a little binded. Next, try to get some light here. Take the same flathead and pop out that cap. And we're going to pop out the second cap. Next, we've got a 7mm hex socket. We've got an extension on it to clear the brake hose. See if I can get a shot of that. Just loosen that partially. And we'll go for the second one below. Now we can loosen these all the way. There's one out. There's our second one. If you need a little help rocking it off, you can put a flat in there. That's off. The inboard brake pad is just held on with clips that go and push inside the piston. Just push forward and it'll come up pretty easy. The outboard brake pad just pulls out like that. This out of the way. Now we'll remove the bracket. Using a 17mm. We're going to get on this bowl here. And then the lower one. Once they're both loose, you can remove them. caliper bracket. All right, this rotor is stuck on there a bit. I just wrapped up a Canadian winter. So let's see if we can get this off without too much trouble. Everyone with a Mazda3 knows what a pain in the ass these can be. Not today. Little trick to not having these freeze to your hub. It's actually not really a trick, it's really more of a chore, is to take them apart every year, sand all the rust down, grind it all off, and cover everything with anti-seize. It's really the only way. It's not the worst rotor I've ever seen, but it's giving me a lot of noise, a little bit of pulsation. It's got some pretty ugly scoring in there, so we are going to replace this. These pads do not look horrible. I think they've got some life left in them. So I'm going to sand them down and reinstall them. What we're going to do here is get a drill with a wire wheel and clean up the mating surfaces where the brake pads sit on the caliper bracket. Now we're going to take a little bit of anti-seize, brush it on the contact points. Everything looks pretty clean in here. But in the spirit of keeping these rotors not frozen to the hub, we're going to take our anti-seize and put some on the outside of the spindle. As this is where it typically rots to. If you're using rubber gloves, you can save yourself a lot of time. Just dip a finger in the grease and just go all the way around it with your finger. And for good measure, we're going to put some on the hub face as well. All right, we've got our new rotor. Did have a little bit of protective film on it from shipping, so there was a little bit of sticky yellow residue on it, so I sprayed that with brake cleaner to remove it. We're now going to install that. You can throw a lug on there to keep that from moving. Ready to reinstall the bracket. Recommended install the top bolt first, loosely. That guy there. That way, this can just hang. Second bolt. Just move the caliper until it falls, move the bracket, sorry, until the bolt falls in the threads. And go back to your 17 mil. Tighten these up. Try to get them snug evenly before you tighten them down, just to prevent any possible binding. The idea here wasn't to get these brake pads back to perfect condition, but rather just to clean up some of the harder score lines on it, just to give it a better chance at adjusting to the new rotor. We're going to take our outboard pad, put a little bit of anti-seize on that too, on the edges. Now, because we're not using new brake pads here, we really don't need to push the piston back. Most likely we don't, but just to show you how you do it if you are replacing your pads. Here's how I do it anyway. Take your brake pad, sit it in there against the caliper. I've got a steering wheel puller here. That works really great. Just thread that down until it's snug. Try to aim it so that it's in the middle of the piston. And just drive it in. Also, it's a good idea to open the cap on your for your brake fluid up there as well when you're doing this. Now with new pads, you'd take it all the way down to the bottom, but since we're not putting new pads in, we don't have to do that. So we'll just put it back in a bit, just to accommodate for some possible new space for the new rotors. Let's put this back. We're going to put just a little bit of anti-seize on these clips here. All right, and it's in. Just take the caliper, drop it back in. Next, we're going to take some brake grease. We're going to apply it to the slider pins. We're going to reinstall those. There's one. Now we're going to go back to our 7mm. 12mm hex bit. We're going to tighten these up. Tighten those up good. And put the plastic caps back on. The last thing to reattach is the anti-rattle clip. It's a good idea to put a bit of anti-seize on the ends, or a lot. Okay, we'll start by seating one of them. And then get the pin started on one. And pull it over like that. I'm just going to use the back end of a screwdriver to tap them in place. Just make sure everything's snug. I'm reusing mine because they're still in really good condition. When you get a brand new one, they are really tight and sometimes need a little more encouragement to get in. And of course, we're going to remove this nut. At this point, all you have to do is throw your tire back on, lower the car, and that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below.